Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Promising Young Woman. At first, when I was watching this movie, I sort of thought it was almost like a failed attempt at doing sort of like a good failed attempt, but like a failed attempt at doing sort of a genre revenge thing. And, I think of things like Miss 45 in particular. I guess Kill Bill would be one of those. Any kind of like, female revenge kind of action-y thing that very much uses genre. And I assumed Promising Young Woman, while I was watching it, was sort of trying to do that. That was sort of a wrong assumption on me as a viewer. It does definitely hint at kind of the idea of those sort of movies, but isn't playing with genre really at all, I don't think, and I didn't think so. It's more kind of dealing with, this is obviously a post-Me Too movie, but also dealing with the ramifications of what this character is doing, the situation she's put herself in the past, she's put herself in the situation that life has put her in as well. And I think it does sort of talk a lot about the Me Too movement in terms of both her vigilante sort of activism as well as people's reaction to those things, and particularly their past actions in the future. You might have expected, because you knew that person 20, 30 years ago, that their reaction would be the same that it is now. And now they might have actually had, that time to think about it and maybe had randomly thought about it and felt absolutely disgusted with themselves, or don't feel that bad, or completely forgot about it. And Promising Young Woman, I think, deals a lot with all the various aspects of that, but it's also really about a very damaged main character, Cassie Thompson, played by Carey Mulligan, who Carey Mulligan is really great in this film. I don't think I've liked her this much in a movie maybe ever. This might be her best performance, or she's really good in it. It's the kind of performance from her I wouldn't have guessed from a decade ago when she was first coming out, but she's actually really very good in it. It's very much like kind of an actress sort of role, because she is kind of like acting in a lot of this film. We're dealing with the various guys in it, pretending to be drunk, using kind of acting almost as her superpower to fight these people, pretending to be different people. It's a very kind of actorly role. You'd think of that, this would be more of like a character actress's role, to be honest, and I think Carey Mulligan shows absolutely what she can do in this. I don't want to see Carey Mulligan a lot more, and I think a couple of years ago I was thinking what happened to her. It's just almost like a triumphant sort of comeback. But she also gets into kind of the anger of this character, the antisocial behavior of this character. Also, I think with Cassie, she's far more internal than you realize her external front is showing. You kind of get glimpses of it, but you almost don't exactly know what's going on in her mind, which definitely works for what this film is doing. But basically, Cassie has been going to bars pretending to be drunk, letting nice guys, take her back to their place, and as soon as they're going to try to sort of take advantage of her, she shows them that she is not drunk at all and asks what are they doing, and kind of confronts them. At the same time, she's trying to get her revenge on the people who were kind of a part of the kind of rape of her friend Nina, which is a very public thing at a party. There was lots of people who shamed her and didn't believe her and wouldn't listen to her story, and she wants to get revenge for her friend who eventually committed suicide. While all those various things are going on, this movie almost sort of reminds me of superhero movies, not because I'm being a limited cis white guy or something, but more because it almost is like a Batman thing, where it's she's going on her patrols and she has her overarching mystery, but also she has a love interest, which is Bo Burnham, and she's sort of falling in love and meeting this guy from the med school that all those horrible things happen to her friend. They're all kind of colliding at once, where you can tell she's sort of questioning whether she should go through with it, whether she should continue doing this, or whether it is what she feels is, I guess, the right thing and her purpose to take out the people that destroyed her best friend throughout her entire childhood, Nina. This is the directorial debut of Emerald Fennell. Is most known, I guess, she plays Camilla on The Crown, but she's also written a lot of episodes, and I've heard is the showrunner of Killing Eve. I'm not entirely sure. And I know she's done some short films and stuff, but this is her directorial debut, and it's really inspiring. And I think one of the things she does a lot in this that I think I would normally not like that a lot of directors do, but I think she's smart enough to know how to do it. Because when I was saying before about genre and how she doesn't do it, and I don't expect every filmmaker to be like in love with genre and have like, you know, every film book and closet full of DVDs or something. That's not necessary. But what I think she does do is it sort of shows a general understanding of film, which a lot of directors, when they have that, are not good. Actually, it's very hard to be a director and not be like well versed in film history and genre and kind of subject matter you're doing, basically. In fact, that's actually harder than being a director who knows all these things, because I've seen it very rarely work that well. But what she's doing is almost like using like our perceptions of film, what we think will happen in some of these beats, and kind of twisting them, but not actually, you know, going like, oh, Promising Young Woman is the female version of this kind of thing, which like something like Miss 45 was, which, you know, when we look at a film even like Wonder Woman, we compare it to the male superhero films, and gets into a larger thing that, since a large majority of Hollywood and film is controlled by like particularly men, that maybe reacting to that genre that is invented by men isn't the best way to sort of do these things. Maybe it's better to kind of make up your own sort of thing. I'm not saying she invented a new genre. Maybe, you will ask me in 10 years, but she made her own wholly original kind of screenplay with this thing. It dances to the beat of its own drummer, basically. I really like that about it, because it's sort of hard to define. That's why I think people get so upset about like tonal shifts in this, which are pretty dramatic, particularly towards the end, kind of work within what this film is trying to do, because I think it's not necessarily an overarching statement on Me Too or saying something like that, but it is showing this character who, you know, went on this quest for revenge, but is almost like sort of given up her life, basically. She's 30. It's been, I believe, 7 years since she left med school. They don't really get into what happened to her during a lot of those years, although she left with her friend Nina. You don't know, which, when you think about it, knowing how this movie is, sounds extra depressing. It sounds like she was just in sort of a void, because you get the impression she only started doing these things semi-recently, but they don't really get into it. I don't know. It just feels like this has given her like a distinct purpose, and sometimes she does really awful things with it, and I think she sort of knows it. Sometimes the twists in this film are like sort of unexpected and actually really interesting and thought-provoking, because I do think it really brings up in a lot of cases, oh, I wouldn't expect this person to be like that, or that person to be like this, and you would think, oh, they're going to confront this character, oh, this is what's going to happen, but it doesn't. Or it's really fascinating. Before I shoot these, I will do, obviously, you know, research and seeing the movie and stuff, and this is one I've done a lot of research on and thought a lot about, with its day glow colors, and like she's in these floral prints, and it's very colorful and pretty, and supposed to take place in Ohio. I've never been to Ohio, but from what I've seen of Ohio in movies, this is like the coolest Ohio movie I've ever seen in my life. It really has a lot in there. It's a really actually dense kind of movie in a really smart way, and I actually want to definitely see it again. I try not to see a movie twice, a newer movie, when I do a review, because I just don't think that's like what you're supposed to do. I don't know. It's up to, I guess I can do whatever I want. But the more I think about this movie, the more I like it. I do think there's a lot here, and it's also like highly finds a way to be relatable. It has a really good, the Paris Hilton music scene with her and Bo Burnham. I never thought I would ever like that Paris Hilton song in anything until I saw this movie. I mean, the soundtrack in this movie is really astounding, because it uses that song, and it's like kind of like how you have a goofy song with a friend, and it's not a good song, and you would never listen to it in your fucking life, and then you have this like great moment, and suddenly you're like, you know what, I do want to hear that Paris Hilton song again. I'm driving down the street to remind me of this, because I had a hard day. It plays so perfectly. I thought that was such an ingenious moment there, because it's always like the dumb little pop songs that like get connected to your life in the stupidest way. Oh, that was like that was really like genius. And I know like the Britney Spears Toxic, that has, you know, an orchestral thing, which is trying to be a little Bernard Herrmann-y, but it also might be because Toxic is a great pop song, or is a great song. It's just a great piece of music, and you can do anything with that and make it great. I've known that since it came out. Toxic's an amazing song. Yeah, I'm pro Britney on that one. I think what Emerald Fennell is doing is just sort of looking at a sense of revenge, but I do think the interesting thing about this film is a film that's about rape and sexual assault, and no one who is in the movie is like sexually assaulted at all. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the film, like Carey Mulligan, it happens very close. She tries to get in front of these guys, but she was not actually raped. It was her friend who we never really see. She's not in the movie, although her character like hangs over it like a spectral ghost. Like, she's almost like one of the most important characters in the whole movie. But basically, like, you never, this is kind of like what I think when we think of these kind of Me Too allegations things, we center on, you know, the main person who is at the center, whether it's Matt Lauer or Louis C.K. or John Lasseter or whomever. I could just keep naming people for a while, but we focus on them. But we don't focus on all the people who what happened to them affected in terms of like the aftermath of that. And it deals with a lot of that. And I think that aftermath is something I don't think we've fully processed. And I think this film is trying to, because I think there's a lot of people who, like, you know, I remember reading about the Bill Cosby case, and I heard about, you know, you read about all these women who were assaulted by him and raped by him. And I was thinking, like, well, if each of those women had kids or had alcohol problems or like decided not to go to a job, or like the reverberations of what he did could affect, you know, thousands of people. You know, obviously they affected the person who was assaulted and so forth. Their actions that were then changed and hurt because of that incident. There are things that changed that person that then changed other people as well. Like, I think when these things happen, there are huge ramifications for those people's families, for those people's, you know, relationships, children, and so forth. And I think, you know, when you look at Promising Young Woman, that is really what it's dealing with, because she wasn't, to my knowledge, in this film, she never says that. So it's interesting how she's using this and using these people and trying to find like get this right, what happened to her friend. What this film is showing is what happens to sort of everyone else. As much as it is about the Me Too movement and these allegations and things, I think when you look at this film, that's what it's really about. I was thinking how smart that really was, because I think there's a lot of films that talk about rape and sexual assault and things, but I think there's not as many that deal with this specific issue and make it sort of as poppy and as fun and as day glow colored and as sort of fun as it can be, but also difficult. This is a strange movie, and some of the times, like, seeing how she has these very well laid out plans, but she doesn't expect certain things to happen. It is a very complicated, strange pop movie in ways that I don't think we get those sort of pop movies anymore. This is like what we'd expect from Sundance or something like that in the late 90s or early 2000s. We don't get these kind of movies anymore in terms of, you know, getting a movie star in them and having it be talked about to this degree, which I found actually a lot of fun. You know, it was actually that I really liked, because I think we sort of need to cinematically have these conversations, but oftentimes these discussions are done with very serious films, and this is doing it in more of like, I don't think it is the most fun movie, but it does it in a lot more of a fun, interesting, you know, watch it with your friends way than a lot of that stuff does. And I think it, in some ways, maybe that's confronting you more. Maybe that's making you talk about it more than if you saw a serious film that's, you know, being very morose about it and so forth. And I think sometimes it can hit you a little harder if they hit you with a pop song than they hit you with the acoustic cover that's supposed to be serious. If you're dancing along to it and hearing it 20 times and hearing those words, doesn't that represent a little bit more? I don't know if anyone would watch this movie 20 times, but the idea of, you know, letting the sugar-coatedness of this movie, let this go down a little easier, but sort of like infect you in various ways and like make you think or make you angry, shows a real intelligent filmmaker. And the fact that everyone's upset and discussing the ending is to this degree, and talking about, you know, having tonal shifts and whatever, and showing how most people, when they think about screenplays, are fairly conservative in terms of story structure and don't really think about the ramifications of character. It shows you how promising and this Emerald Fennell is. It shows you how interesting this movie is. And I think it's a film, like, several days later I still want to talk about, I still want to think about, and I actually want to watch again. And it's just a movie that's, you know, just goddamn exciting in a lot of ways, and you kind of think you're going to go in and root for it, and maybe that's because we've been waiting for this movie for so long because of COVID, but it doesn't move in the way you want it to. But I think that's really what's so great about it, is that it doesn't want to do what you want it to. It's not Miss 45. We already have that movie, so we can just watch that. This is trying to say something more, and this is trying to, you know, say something about what happened to everyone after Nina was gone, and how her friend is going to deal with that, and whether she could ever get back really what she lost all that time ago. And doing that in this sort of a style is really, really fascinating. I think Emerald Fennell really wants to confront you while also having a lot of fun is not something I think a lot of directors really want to do as much as I think she really wants to, in such a sort of poppy, invasive way that she does. So if you have seen Promising Young Woman and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.